Actually, when we made the song, the tabernacle was not there at all. I remember telling Max, I'm like, we need to say something before that double bass part. And
yeah, we just didn't know what to say, and we didn't want any, like, or, like something that was already
it's not memorable.
Everywhere. Yeah.
I remember I texted my sister back in the days, and I was like, what do you think if we say tabarnak right before a breakdown? It's like, terrible idea, worst idea. I'm like, imagine the merchandise, it would sell well. I texted a few other people, everybody told me no. And I said to Max, let's try it.
Yeah. I thought it was the fucking sickest idea.
I think it was fucking awesome, but, and turned out that we were right. But, yeah.
Real quick before we start, I just wanted to mention that we do these podcast recordings live on stream. We stream every single Wednesday at 6 p.m. EST on Twitch. It's an opportunity for you guys to come hang out, interact, and ask your questions directly to all of our guests. We also have a Discord if you want to keep talking more about deathcore and metalcore, or simply to keep up with everything that we're doing, upcoming guests, and all that jazz. I'll leave links to both of these things in the description wherever you are watching or listening. And with that out of the way, please enjoy this episode. Welcome to episode 30 of the Brutality podcast. My name is Dom, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Yan. Today, we have a very special episode. We are going to be 4 Frenchies, 4 Quebecers speaking in English for you guys, people watching. We have Max and Jonathan from A Blind Witness. Welcome to the show, guys. How are we doing?
Good, man. Thanks for having us.
Yep, thanks for having us.
Of course. I know it's been, we were talking a little bit off screen. It's been a little bit since you guys have done one of these or kind of talked about the band. So, yeah, I'm excited to kind of catch up and see what's up.
Been a few years.
I mean, we could maybe touch up on maybe some of the more recent stuff, because you guys kind of like, at an unfortunate timing, I guess, put out a single in like 2020, maybe like a month before COVID, and you guys had like 4 shows lined up right when COVID hit. I think like the week everything shut down. Take me back to those times. I'm curious.
Yeah, so we wanted to bring the band back together and release new music and start playing shows again. But then COVID happened, and it kind of stopped us, and I think we lost, the
momentum.
Yeah. And so COVID was so long that we just, we went our separate ways. And for me at the studio, I was so busy, I didn't have really time to, because, during the pandemic, it didn't really stop for studios.
Yeah.
Because bands only had, time for recording. So kept me busy.
Everyone was actually doing music, if anything.
Yeah, that's it. So no shows, but a lot of recording. So I just, I didn't write any more songs, and we lost the momentum. And so that was it.
Yeah, it was kind of obviously was a big step back for everyone. Like, this thing was just like, what the hell is happening right now? But, it was either bands just like kind of took a step back and stopped, or they were extremely productive, like new songs, new everything, because now they had time at home, I guess. But it was I can see why you guys just kind of, okay, we're waiting. And then 2 years later, things have changed, right? Like, you've got tons of new stuff and whatever. So it's completely understandable. I've seen that happen quite a lot, actually. So.
Yeah. And for me, like during the pandemic, I have 3 daughters. So, and my last one was just born. So like all my kids were at home. So like, I didn't have any free time. So like, especially not for writing music, So
did you guys have more stuff lined up like pre-pandemic? Because I know you guys put out the song. Did you guys have more material already, or that there was just, that's what you guys had?
I had songs, but I if I sit too long on a song, then I don't like it anymore. Yeah. I don't want to release it, And so the songs that I had planned 4 or 5 years ago, I would never put them out right now. I love Force Fed, but it's I don't know. Like,
right.
It's,
you guys haven't even played it live yet, and it's already an old song for you guys type thing.
Exactly.
Even to play it live, you're like, fuck,
Well, it's a fun song, but yeah. And for live, we don't even have a band anymore. Like Ollie's in Get the Shot, and our, Pat doesn't play drums anymore, and all that stuff. Yeah. So yeah.
And well, he was doing Get the Shot too.
Yeah, he was doing Get the Shot. Yeah,
everyone just went to Get the Shot.
yeah. It's the smart choice. They're a good band and they tour a lot, so
Yeah, and it could be an impression, but I feel like they're getting more and more traction, more popular. Like I keep seeing them like cool tours, cool, like it feels like they're just like they're going like that. So it's freaking awesome.
Yeah, it's because they kick ass. They're so good. Live, it's like incredible.
Especially live, right? I think there's like a very, very cool live energy that band's got for sure.
The funny thing also is like the lead singer, I'm terrible with names, but like when I met him, he's like the sweetest person on the freaking planet. And he looks on stage like he's going to murder someone. Like I'm like, oh my God, all the pictures, super. But when you meet him, he's like the coolest, just super chill dude, which, I don't know, it makes it even cooler in my opinion, but.
Yeah, exactly. That's what everyone says.
He's a really cool guy. We saw them actually this weekend.
Yeah, they played the Festival au Lac in Granby.
Were
you guys there?
Sound for them.
No, we weren't there, but I saw your stories. You were doing sound for them, right?
Yeah. No, it was a cool show, for sure.
So you guys, just to put things into perspective, you guys would be coming up on 20 years of Blind Witness, right?
In
like 2025?
2025, we're going to be 20 years old. Yes, the band is going to be 20 years old, yep.
Yeah, the band's already an adult, in Quebec at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Time goes fast. So time goes fast and everything goes by so rapidly. Like, I mean, I can't believe it's been 20 years. But
if you count the off years, then we're like 8.
Yeah.
Not even in high school.
We've got JC in chat here. He's 20 years old. He was born the year you guys were started up.
Oh God. Yeah.
So that makes us all kind of feel a little bit older.
It hurts a little bit.
The back starts hurting. Yeah.
I don't know for you guys, but in my mind, 2009 isn't so far when the, MySpace, everything, like it doesn't look so far. And when you think about it, it's been a while. Like people are telling me, dude, I wasn't even born. Like I'm doing videos about bands and they're like, dude, I wasn't born. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm here now. People don't relate anymore with what I'm bringing up, like, oh, MySpace. Oh, no, I wasn't around. Oh my God. Okay, we're here.
Burn a CD? What do you mean?
Yeah, LimeWire.
And I feel like these were the golden years, at least for like metalcore. And, because, people call us deathcore. I don't really think so. We're more like heavy metalcore,
But all metalcore was heavy metalcore back then.
Yeah, of course. But
right?
like,
we didn't have to specify, it was inherently heavy.
And every time somebody asked me like the style of music that my band played, I would just say metal. Because, it's like, so many subgenres. Now it's like crazy. But, I've never really considered ourselves deathcore.
Yeah.
More of like, metalcore, like Azali Dying kind of riffs with like faster drums, maybe. And like, heavier vocals, maybe. But and for that style of music, I think that like 2010, like 2005 till 2011, something like that, was just pure gold.
Dude, the Canadian scene specifically for that style of music too was fucking huge. There were like, that was the thing all across Canada.
All those, it was.
But that was more deathcore. But like in the metalcore, there was like a very big, I don't know, The Gorgeous, Means, Farewell to Freeway, all those bands that you guys used to tour with, right?
Blessed by a Broken Heart.
Oh yeah. There's like there was like a big wave of those bands, especially at that time. It was universal. It was in the States too, but I think it was one of the things. It kind of, metalcore also kind of merged with like southern, the like southern rock type thing, the Holly Springs Disasters and Dead and Divines and all that stuff. That kind of like merged into.
That was so big for a while. That style of music.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. I remember like in my like shit, like I lived in Kingston for a little bit, and that's like, I don't think a single kid didn't listen to like Holly Springs Disaster and stuff like that. That was like,
they
were gods over there, you know. They weren't a big band, but for us it was like, holy shit, you know.
Well, locally, like I think in Canada, I don't know worldwide, but they were huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
It would,
Sorry, but
go ahead,
it was definitely I still feel like that. Like it was different. You know, a show would be, you know, announced in Montreal, and that I remember like you walk in and you would see people that clearly are going to the show, and it was always like freaking sold out everywhere. Like it's thriving now, but I mean, like the golden years, it was also because it was starting. You know, I do remember it was kind of all mixed up in my mind. Like August Burns Reds were kind of in the same scene of like deathcore bands. So it was all kind of together, this big thing, and it might be why people are like Blind Witness is deathcore. It's because you guys were still playing with deathcore bands and you were in the same scene per se. So I feel like that's the reason why they're deathcore. It's because you were in the same, you know, within the same scene, I believe.
Yeah, maybe, but it never bothered me. I was just, you know, I just felt it is always a little strange, but you know, we are what we are.
Yeah, I think Nightmare on Providence Street kind of pushed it a little bit towards deathcore. I think, like you said, I think the way you put it is like metalcore with faster drums. Like definitely, like on Nightmare, there was like the blast beats. Them just that in and of itself was kind of a departure from your more traditional metalcore, I guess, and made it, you know, it was a lot faster too, a little bit more grindy. You had certain parts and certain styles of breakdowns that catered also to deathcore. But then, you know, like Yen said, I think just the fact of playing, you know, you guys were touring with bands like Suffocate and stuff like that, where it made sense. Like, did you guys feel that where you guys kind of knew that you guys fit in well with metalcore, but also with deathcore and like different subgenres of metal at that time?
back in the days when, like in 2010, when we started touring more intensively, all the bands that we were touring with, like what was the trend was deathcore. So everybody was trying to be deathcore. All the metalcore band were done. They were like, our band is not picking up, so we're just gonna call it off and we're just gonna stop playing music. And all the deathcore became like that kind of like the new metalcore. It was just like,
right.
it was pretty much more like a name on the style of music, because there was a lot of metalcore band that did the transition because they were touring always with deathcore band. But us, I think Max, when he was like composing music, he would always think of like metalcore, but we had a really good drummer, so why not combine both, and we could tour with metalcore and deathcore. And I mean, it was
the switch was like natural, because when we got Eric in the band, it changed everything, because like suddenly we had a drummer who could do stuff that I didn't even think was possible on drums.
You could program anything and that dude's going to be able to play it.
And that's the way that we always wrote. Like, I would have my laptop in the van and, my Line 6 USB card, and I would write riffs and program drums the way that I knew how to program drums, with like simple beats or whatever. And then when Eric joined the band, I remember riding with him in the van, and I was like, is this fucking even possible? Like, and he was like, yeah, no problem. He was like, hey, we should have like this pattern in a song. And I was like, can you play that? He was like, of course. So I was like,
and I can flip my drumsticks while I do it too.
Yeah. And so I was like, now sky is the limit. Because I was always thinking about like what we can actually play. But now, like, I knew my own, I knew how good I was at guitar, and like as far as I could go, and so that was it. But like on drums, now I had like no limit. so it's just so that was a big switch for us, because like now the same guitar riffs could be like so much harder, and like the same breakdowns could hit so much harder because of the drums on it. Like if you put like a breakdown and the blast beat together, it sounds fucking insane, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like that kind of defined the new Blind Witness sound. Like the fact that we got that guy in the band for sure.
I remember when we wrote Baby One More Notch, it was Sonny's
That was with
last
Sonny, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Sonny's last tour.
Yeah.
And then Max was like, I think we should put really fast double bass drum at after you say Tabernacle, it's gonna be like awesome. And Sonny was like, that's impossible to play.
Like at
And
that
I remember,
BPM, no way.
I texted Eric because we knew Eric was gonna replace Sonny.
Okay.
And he's like, yeah, I can do that easily. So
Yeah, that was
so
no
we recorded
secret,
it.
but like,
And actually it was true. He could play it. So I mean like the sky was the limit, like Max said. It's like,
and I think at that time, like these kinds of drummers, they weren't as common as now. Like insane kicks and, you know, blast beats. And he was so young too. So that was very impressive. Yeah.
Marathi was 1 in a million. Like there were no other drummers like him, especially locally, right? Like around here. Like
Yeah. And even nowadays, I think he's still one of the best drummers out there for metal. Like it's because everything is so easy for him. Like I remember when we recorded the EP, I Am Hell, he went to my studio. He had never heard the songs, and it took him like 1.5 days to record all 5 songs. He would just listen to one riff and he'd be like, oh yeah, okay, cool. Let me try that. And then, what do you think? I was like, man, it's fucking sick. We can curse. Can we curse?
Oh yeah, absolutely,
okay.
Absolutely.
So
Look,
yeah,
we're all French here. We got to curse.
Yeah, I would feel uncomfortable if I could. No, but yeah, he was just, you know, he's that good. So
yeah, it's cool. It's cool seeing him now with Suffo, you know, and just fucking going at it there in such an extreme band, and how he's elevated them too, you know, with their new material and everything. Dude, I'm glazing right now, but that dude's fucking insane.
I've always said it, but like drummers are always going to be what impresses me the most. Like for sure, there's other impressive thing, but every time I look at a playthrough or something, I'm like, how? Like what is even like? It doesn't even look human sometimes, and he was definitely part of that, and it's an interesting perspective because people don't think about that, the limitation you can have within a band sometimes. Like it's not something you think about. You're just like, oh, they could have done this, but you got to be able to, you know, to play it. If you put those super fast part and then you go live and you
ideally,
just, I mean, and you can't really do it. It's you know, it's not a good thing.
We've all seen those bands, you know.
Yeah, that was a problem. Like I think that it's starting to, you know, get better. Because these bands, they don't last very long. But, you know, during the pandemic, a lot of people wrote stuff that they couldn't play. And so even in the studio, I saw that a few times. You know, they write on Guitar Pro and then they come here and, you know, the riff is really way harder than they thought it was, you know. And
whoops.
It's always my first question when I write, because in what I do, I'm writing the drum parts. And every time the producer, I'm like, just tell me if it's playable, like if it makes sense. I'm not a drummer. And sometimes he takes it apart. He's like, yeah, we're just gonna fix it a little bit here because no person on the planet right now.
I'm sure there's a drummer out there with 3 hands that could maybe do it, but you know.
Yeah, I love, you know, like it's cool sometimes, like a roll or something, and he's like, yeah, it's not. You need like 4 hands to do that. Okay, my bad. So it's. Yeah, I feel like it's important also to be able to deliver. So it must be, you know, it must have been cool to always ask Eric, and he's just like, "Are you asking me?" Like, sure, dude. Like, yeah, I'm gonna play. Like, make it look super easy, and it's super difficult. It's like you don't have any limitation anymore. It's just like, let's do whatever the hell we want now. So it's, you know, it explains why after that you switch direction. I think anybody would have taken the opportunities and that. So
it makes like the growing part of the band way easier because you always want to evolve, but now like with a guy like that, you know, you can't go, you know, you can't what's the opposite of evolve? Regress. You can't regress, you know.
No, I don't think. Oh my God, it should have been not as good. Like I mean, like if you, I feel like that's the goal usually. Like no one is like, let's do the same thing. The
You know
exact
what?
Same thing.
If Blind had, continued, in 2025 and it'd be like our 6th record or whatever, I think we'd sound like Archspire maybe. If you never stop evolving.
Yeah.
With Eric, I think that it'd probably be it, Maybe not as good, but yeah.
Sky's the limit.
Talking about Inhuman, I mean, Archspire, it's like, what? Dude. Like every position in the band, that's the crazy part. Like I hear the vocals, I'm like, what is even that? The drums, like there's nothing in this band. I'm like, oh, okay. Like it's all unplayable. I'm like, okay, guys.
These guys.
Yeah. I just saw them live a couple days ago, actually, and it's like they pulling it off live is the main feat ultimately. Like they play it live flawlessly, and it's just like, all right, like you guys win. It's chill. I give up. I'm not trying anymore.
Dude, and I had my tickets, but I didn't go because I was too tired because of Festival au Lac and Aborted too. Like that's like probably my favorite band right now. So good, Yeah.
And another band that's been at it for so fucking long too.
Yeah.
Right? Like they must have 20 years, if not super close too. They've been around for a fucking minute. And
longer than that, I think.
Yeah. And they keep getting better somehow. That's what amazes me. And I respect bands like that too, that they keep up with the times. Like they sound like a super modern band today. You would tell someone who's never heard Aborted before that they've been around for over 20 years and they wouldn't even really believe you. Like it doesn't sound like old school death metal. It doesn't sound like anywhere like cliche as some of the style used to sound like. And yeah, I don't know. So much respect for bands like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'd love to kind of pick your guys' brain and to kind of go back in time. Like you guys started in around 2005. You guys pretty quickly, I think you guys put out like two smaller demos, kind of like printed out on CDs type thing, before eventually, getting with Torque and doing the Mean split and then the record the next year. But there isn't much info on you guys. I had a hard time digging some stuff from like the early years, from like the demo years. Could you guys speak to us a little bit about maybe how the band formed and like how, because that was pretty quick too. Like from what I gather, it's like, not all the members were there super like right off the bat, but it did come together pretty quick and you guys started playing shows quick. But did you guys tour early on or it kind of started a few years later?
We started to tour a few years later. Actually, I'm not even an original member of Blind Witness. Okay. Blind Witness was a band that existed before I joined. It was like a high school band. I was playing bass in a weird metal / I don't know how to say that. It was just a weird. It was
a high school band.
It was a high school band. Everybody.
We call that the local band.
Yeah,
that's the style.
Yeah, well, it was really really weird. It was called Mind Flyers, and we were playing shows with Blind Witness, and Pierre-Luc was playing guitar, but he was singing as well, and his singing was really weird, but he really seemed to enjoy singing. But at some point, we started to hanging out, and at one Blind Witness practice, the drummer just bought a double pedal for the kick drum, and Pierre-Luc asked me, "Hey, do you want to maybe try and sing?" And I tried it for the first time that day, and they all stopped. They were like, "Whoa, that's good." So, do you want to join the band? So I said yes,
okay,
and
on your
we
first
started
day
like
screaming.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
I kind of practiced a few weeks before, actually, because I don't know, I was wondering if I could scream. And back in the days, we were all big fans, but we're still big fans of Misery Signals. But I was playing in the sound system, the CD, and I was trying like to scream on top of it. Yeah. And it was my first experience screaming. And then I did it with the band, and they liked it, and they offered me the position, and I said yes. And Pierre-Luc was really was really the geek of the band. He was like doing the MySpace and the website and everything, and he had contact to book tours. And we started our first tour. I think it was 2005, and we recorded a 5-song demo, like maybe 7 months prior. And then we decided to go on our first Canadian tour in the winter, which is a really smart idea.
Yeah.
Well, no.
Sleeping in the van, I'm sure. Highly profitable
sleeping in the
tour, I'm
van
sure,
in
for
Saskatchewan, minus 40. Awesome.
Yeah.
But we did a few Ontario run before, and then we launched our first Canadian tour. I think you were in the band.
I did East Coast.
East Coast was your first tour?
My first tour was the East Coast tour. Couldn't remember the year though.
It's really hard to go back in time that much.
We should have prepared more.
But you, well, to be fair, you guys toured Canada as a whole so many fucking times.
Yeah.
Like compared to most bands, like I know it's maybe more natural for someone to kind of assume that a Canadian band would tour a lot in Canada before going somewhere else, like going to the States, but it's rough out there. Like there's like nothing in most of Canada. So most bands kind of opt to do Quebec and Ontario tours, and that's kind of it. That's kind of as far as they go. So I was looking through your guys' kind of like tour history, and you guys were doing cross Canada all the time. And then on top of that, doing Quebec and Ontario and the Maritimes and stuff like that. So I don't blame you for remembering, not remembering which exact tour in Canada you did first.
We did a lot of Canadian tour for sure. We were on the mindset of like, the more shows you play, the faster you're gonna get, not bigger, but
the faster you're gonna get known.
Yeah, the faster you're gonna get known.
And it's always like, even now, like I tell every band that I record, like if they wanna get traction or get a little bigger or whatever, I just tell them to fucking go play shows. Everyone is so on like Spotify now and all like the socials, and I'm like,
how can I hack the system and gain more
metal
fans?
is like a fucking, it's a live show, and if you want to, if you want your band to, if you want anybody to notice, you just fucking practice and be good and then do play shows. And I still think that it's it's a good way to differentiate yourself from like all these other bands that might sound cool on Spotify, but really they can't even play their songs. So, and so for Blind Witness, that was all about, I think we were better live than our songs were good. We had like our first songs were pretty bad, but
it was terrible.
We did we played, we put out some good shows, and put on some good shows. And I think that people started to maybe come see us play just because it was fun to watch and not really because the songs were good.
It was more of a choreograph. I don't know how to say that in English, but
choreograph.
You got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything was timed and planned, and
the guitar, everything was like
back then especially, that was the thing. Everyone that was, you had to do it. That and the scrims.
And we carried our stage lights that we made ourselves, and we had our friend Sam who would run the lights. And it was like you'd see a band do that right now, you'd be like, what the hell? But like back in the days, I think it was cool. Or at least we thought it was cool.
Dude, I'm not a good example of that because I still enjoy that today. Like if I see a band, like I couldn't care less if they miss notes or whatever, like move the hell out on the stage, like just like give your, like to me, like you said, it's metal. So it's fun to see that there's like efforts and like what you give and your energy and spirit. Maybe it wouldn't be the same move as back then, but it's still, I love seeing that, like when like you almost feel bad not going crazy as a fan if the band themselves are going crazy on stage. You feel like you have to go, you have to be part of that. So like when you see especially the vocalists are known to be like the commander kind of, like they're kind of, telling you what to do and stuff like that. So I feel like the crazier you go, the more chances you're gonna have that people are gonna go crazy with you. It just makes sense to me, you know?
Yeah, and we kind of lost that too, because like I have a theory that like back in the days, like writing songs was way different, and like it's not the same game as right now. And you know, now people, they write stuff that's so hard to play that they can't move live because they have to fucking, you know, think about what they're playing and, you know, really concentrate. And back in the days, like I would write riffs that I could actually play, but like, well, you know, and so I didn't really have to think about it when I was playing because the riffs weren't that difficult. And so I could run around and spin my guitar and, you know, do all that stuff. But if I played in like fucking Archspire, I can, you know, I couldn't move.
Yeah, that's understandable for sure.
But
like
them, they're super good. But like other bands that like they write
an anomaly for sure.
Yeah. But some bands they just write stuff that is above their skills. And so live they really have to, you know, I'd rather listen to this CD, at least, you know, they're not fucking up on it, you know.
Yeah, there's some merit to like the caveman riff. You know, that's why it works so well. The dummy riff, like the thing that's really easy to play, but you can go fucking crazy on. And then that's what's good for the live show, you know, more than the noodling around in most cases, you know. I
think it has to do also because like most people going to a show, they're not guitar player. They couldn't care less about what you just did. They don't know if it's hard that much. Like there's going to be like 6 people being like, oh my God, he missed the note there. The rest of people are just enjoying the show and stuff like that. So I feel like, as you said, especially like bands like Suffocate, although I know you guys, you know, toured with them and stuff like that. It's still one of the band I think was awesome and stuff. But like, you can tell that the songs were written for the shows, like to get people to go crazy. To me, it makes sense because, and again, I'm sure some people are going there because it's impressive, like Archspire and stuff like that. But I would argue, look at people live and look at the technical parts and see if people enjoy technical stuff or if they enjoy more the bouncy, simple stuff. And you're going to see people just jumping everywhere when it's simple. You know, if you watch August Burns Red, watch people in the room when the breakdown hits and stuff like that's when you see people just smiling and being like that. So I don't know. I feel like maybe nowadays the best would probably be like a mix. Like,
well, ABR, they have like, they're technical, but it's not too technical. And they have a lot of like, that's probably a lot of fun to play live because it's not, you know, you're not so much in your head and trying not to miss a note, but it's still like super sick riffs. Yeah. You know,
you're paying to go see a show. You're not, I mean, like,
you're not playing a CD, you know?
No, but I think
you want to see the energy of the live band. You want to hear something different that you have on your CD in your car or on Spotify or whatever, but you want to see something different, like change the tempo because they know the breakdown is coming. They're gonna ring the cymbals a little longer because they want the energy of the crowd to go up, and like that's why I go see shows, you know, like
that's exactly to add to Max's point about like how music was written back then versus now. Like we talk about this all the time, and I think this is true in metalcore as well. But I think of cliches in deathcore, like early deathcore. It was like the gang vocals, the build-ups to breakdowns, all these things that were 100% just for the crowd, right? Like it wasn't like hyping you up necessarily when you were listening to it like in your headphones or whatever. It was for the live show, and a lot of bands back in the day did a lot of their writing for the live show, which maybe I think, to your point, Max, like isn't necessarily as much of a focus now as it used to, for sure.
I feel also like, and I could be wrong because I don't know everybody in this freaking scene, but like maybe one day. But when people are writing music now, there's this thing about being recognized, and like deathcore and metalcore for a long time had a bad rap and stuff. So it was kind of a proving like we're real metal, we're awesome. So I feel like a lot of people are writing now and they're like, they want to be, I don't know, like consider like serious death metal people, even if they're in deathcore. So I have this feeling that it's a big part of what it is. But if you go back in the days, people were just like, let's do something fun, you know, let's just do something that people enjoy live. There was kind of no pressure on that side, at least from my perspective, you know.
Well, for me, like I always thought that like our band sucked compared to all the other. Like every time I'd write a song, I'd be like, I wish it was better, or I wish it was like more like that band or like that band. And so I looked up to so many bands, but then after like all these years, you kind of notice that like people like, you know, your music, and so that's to your point that maybe like, you know, like simple stuff is, you know, just as good, or at least
when it's well thought, like when the way you write music is always fascinate me, because the way you think about how people are gonna understand what you're trying to play, and it's always super catchy what you write, so it helps
it's simple
a lot.
stuff, but like I play to like my ability, you know, and so, and I always try to write stuff that's like to, you know, 80% of my ability, so that live I can play it even if I had a few beers, or, you know, if like I'm going a little crazy, because I never wanted to write stuff that I have to sit and, you know,
you got to practice drunk to make sure it works.
Well, you know, you just know it. Like if I write a riff and it takes me like 10 times and I can't play it, well, I'm not going to use that riff, because like I want to be able to, you know, play it live. And so that's why maybe, and that's why Blind Witness is so, you know, maybe simple on guitars, but like crazy on drums. Because like Eric, he could play to 80% of his ability and still, you know, be better than most people.
Yep.
So
that's for sure.
Yeah, and it's not as easy as people think. Like writing something simple, like we talk about that a lot as well. Like pop music, people think it's super simple. It's not. To do like a pop song that's going to work and that's going to be like a big song, people are like, "Oh, it's easy." It's actually probably one of the hardest things to do. Yeah. So it's like, and again, it makes it very difficult to be unique and simple, because people have before you are thinking about million riffs and stuff. So how can we make it different? So I feel like there's this, at least from my perspective, there's like this appreciation of simplicity sometimes. That's why I love like slam or other things. I don't really mind if it's simple, but again, in metal, I understand why people want to be impressive, but it doesn't mean because something is simple that it's not well thought out. Like, you know, like you both said, it's sometimes you can spend a long time on a very simple thing. So it's, you know, I feel like,
well, think about Knock Loose now. Like they're not, you know, the most technical band, but they're probably one of the biggest band right now.
And it's so freaking heavy.
Yeah. But that's live music, you know? And like, so that's that kind of music kind of takes me back to, you know, the 2010s and all that stuff. Like, and it's like, there's like I think these years are kind of slowly coming back, you know, like
there's a revival right now for sure.
Yeah. And I think that's really, really awesome.
I've seen a lot of comparison with like Knock Loose and like even like old stuff like Norma Jean and whatever, you know, like they're bringing back some very old school metalcore elements. It's very, you know, nice to see that coming back, especially after so long being gone. Like now it's the opposite, and
it's the kids doing it.
I was about to say that.
That's what's cool about it. Because if it was just like the old folks doing like more of their old stuff, it'd be like, okay, like that's one thing, but it's not, you know, it's not going to be the biggest thing ultimately. But it's the kids that are doing it, and the kids are showing up like crazy to the shows, and other people are enjoying it, and they're like making it its own thing. So I don't know. I love the youth when the youth, there's a youthful energy to it, right? Like I think it's safe to say for most of us, we get older and we kind of get jaded, right? And there's like there's something with like the youth, and maybe it's kind of like naive, just like writing and not giving a fuck, you know, and just writing something you think sounds cool and would sound cool live. And we're seeing a lot of that with like some really cool revival styles like in metalcore and deathcore right now, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly.
You okay, so you guys did the split with Means. Was that just through the label, or did you guys already know Means before the split?
We knew them a little bit, but
Might have played a couple shows with them, I think.
In Calgary, I think the first time we ever played with them, and they were big out west. Like they were like playing in front of 500 people every night, like let's say 300 to 500. I don't know, but
that's half the city for some of the places they were playing.
Yeah, they were, but they were really good.
And
they were amazing.
It's one of the first band that we started to get along with, and we really liked their music. I mean, like we would listen to their CD in the van, and we were like, that's really good. It's really different from what we play, but it paired really well. And then the label owner, to give us a little push to make us like, because he wanted us to be a little bit bigger out west. So he had the idea of doing the split because we already had like the song. The
songs were already recorded
and everything. Because we went to Replix.
That's Replix. Ouais. Yeah, in Orford. Eric Menard. Shout out.
Yeah. And so we went there and we recorded the songs, and then after that we just gave it to Torque, and Torque did the split, and that was it.
Cool. And then you guys, I think there was maybe this is kind of in a similar vein. Like I saw you guys kind of do a lot of touring with bands that were Canada bands from out west. Texas Tragedy and like Straight Reads Line and stuff like that. Like, was that kind of in the same? Because I could see you guys being on the split with Means, a good thing for Means as well, right? Being like you guys exposing the Eastern crowd maybe more to Means as well. Was that ever kind of like a factor, like playing with bands from out west, and you guys would both kind of help each other out in maybe getting tour dates on each side and helping draw crowds on across the country?
Yeah, that was the plan when we were planning tours across Canada, because out west it was really, really difficult for us to get some sort of recognition. So by touring a lot, you meet a lot of people, and sometimes you get along with a lot of people, sometimes you don't. And Textbook Tragedy, we were friends with them before we started touring with them. So it just made sense because they were doing well out west and we were doing good out east. And so we would like go, let's meet in somewhere in the middle, and then we go all the way to Vancouver. We go back and we go out east. That was the plan. The plan is always to have a lot of people at shows to make the show profitable, and that was it. That's how we became friends with all those Western Canadian bands.
Because at that time too, all the tours were DIY.
It was really hard to book tours.
And so, if you team up with, a band from out west, then it makes it a lot easier to book shows.
They know the promoters and all that stuff. And
dude, it took a lot of time before we even had like a booking agent or anything, like anyone who would take care of that. So it took so many years, And so yeah.
I mean, speaking of people that were helping you guys out, can you guys kind of speak to Dave Boucher and his kind of involvement with the band?
Dave Boucher, I have a lot of respect, and I love him very much because he helped us so much. And I remember the first time I gave him a demo of our band, it was at a show Extensive Enterprise put on at Café Linco. It was Stick to Your Guns. And I remember I gave him the demo and I was shaking so much because back then my English was terrible and he only speaks English. Now I realized a few years on that he was really capable of speaking French. So
more than you were capable of speaking English, probably.
There you go. And so I gave him the demo and he emailed me back. He's like, it's not bad. I think there's some points that you guys can change a bit because you guys are in the scene. It seems it's hard to market you guys. That's what he said. That's what a lot of labels said. Yeah. When we showcased for Victory, it was the same thing. And it was very true. And so we decided as a band to go more on the heavy side.
Is that where you guys kind of started not fucking with singing anymore? Because you guys kind of like dropped that out of the band at a certain point, right?
Yes.
Hey, I have an anecdote, right? Just before, because the Victory record showcase made me think of, we would start our set with like a bam, and all our stuff was set up on stage, and so we were waiting for the people to show up, and when they arrived, then we'd start playing, and then Kev goes to Pam, and then both our amps are on standby, so it just goes to and no sound. And that was the first note of the Victory record showcase.
Okay,
the first thing you guys could have changed,
because I made videos and like, is that the weird showcase that you go in their place and it's like you're playing in front of execution? That's the weirdest thing ever. Like you mentioned earlier that metal is a live thing. It couldn't be weirder than be like, hey, come into our office and play some deathcore, metalcore. Like that's what you guys did.
It was it's actually a venue, but there's only 6 or 7 people there. They're standing and they're not clapping in between songs. They're not doing nothing, so you don't know how to entertain them or anything. But
I think they were even sitting at a table in the back. Some
people were standing up,
taking notes, right? Like
and their response was like, "You guys have lights. You guys have a great live show. You guys have everything. Why would you need us?" And I was like, yo, that's something you don't understand, I think. But okay, I'll let you the benefits of the doubt. But they were saying that we were really hard to market. They were like, we could see you as the Canadian As They Dying, but there's already an As They Dying. So why would we need a Canadian As They Dying? And I was like, okay. And then me and Max had that talk, and we were like, that hurts a lot, but it's true. I mean, like we cannot be a copy of something. We need to have our own sound, and he came up with since the beginning. And back then, the band, we had a lot of limitation. He didn't talk about that early on, but earlier when we were talking about that.
Well, I talked about it a little bit.
But I mean, like the band Max was always writing for the other players.
Well,
for them to be comfortable playing stuff, and not that they were bad, they were not bad, but we had limitations, and we were all friends, and it's hard, like sometimes to be like, hey, like Kevin, can you play that on the drums? And he's like, yeah, sure, I can play it, and then he play it, and it doesn't work. And we're like, okay, we're gonna change that. We're gonna modify some stuff here and there, and that's what I think really
it created some tension.
Yeah, and it held down the band a little bit. And since the beginning arrived, I'm like, that's amazing. I love the song. I love the breakdown. I'm like, that's our sound signature right there. That's where we want to go. No singing, just screaming. And then my voice changed a big amount too, because we were touring so much at that time that, like your voice... I was not practicing in my shower, like I was practicing when I was playing a show. And
That's when you get better, really.
Exactly. For sure. And you work on your stamina, like the way that like your scream long, short, and back and forth, and you see what your body can do. And I saw that it was doing well after a few tours. And so we decided to just not do singing anymore, because we were not really terribly great singers, and we decided to just like leave it and just scream. And that's when the Blind Witness signature pretty much arrived. And at the same time, Eric joined the band, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah. So happy I stopped singing.
Me too.
Yeah.
Just wanted to take a second of your time to talk to you guys about the Thrill of the Hunt Tour 2024, presented by Brutality Podcast, that's us, and Imperial Booking. The tour features MySpace deathcore revival bands Peacemaker, Victim Blamed, and Reverent. Tour runs from July 12th to the 27th and is going to be hitting the states of Texas, Louisiana, Florida, and Tennessee, with more dates to be added. I'll leave a link in the description for all the dates and ticketing info. Go check it out. And now back to the podcast. What did those conversations like lead up to, I guess, because we're talking about Dave, you know, and him telling you guys that you know, you guys aren't really necessarily marketable. You guys do the victory showcase, then like you guys regroup, but then what happens from there?
We regroup, and then Dave gave me his advice, and then I arrived with new music, and he's like, okay, that's way better. This is something that I can work with. Would you guys want to be on Set Your Goal show? Like, yes, sure. We're like our first big show in Montreal with known bands. Awesome. We're the worst snowstorm ever. We played the show. We opened. There's maybe 5 people there, and we are all like super down about it. Yeah. And we go back home and we're like, nah, it's okay. We go on like tour. The showcase, you know? Yeah. We go back on tour. And then in the middle of the tour, I receive an email from Dave. He's like, hey, I have an opening slot for the Bring Me the Horizon show. Do you guys want to open that?
Yes, 2008 Suicide Season, like peak metalcore era.
I'm like, yes. And because of that show, everything changed for us in Montreal after that show. Like, okay. We stopped playing Café Linco. We stopped playing like small venues. We would always, and Dave liked the crowd reaction to us. And so from that day, he would always put us on big shows. And that was pretty much it. And that's how we became friends. And then I asked him if he wants to manage us, because at the time we were on Mediascare, and Baron, the owner of Mediascare, was our manager. And Dave convinced him to be our Canadian manager, and that happened. And Dave was like super helpful for us. I mean, without him, I don't think we would have gone that far, for sure.
I'm also curious because I know you guys played shows, like lots of shows before that, but how intimidating was that to play with Bring Me the... I mean, like Bring Me was like basically the biggest thing at that point. Like how anxious... It's coming from me, who's super anxious in life. I'm just trying to picture myself in your place. Like how stressed were you guys before that performance?
I mean, me, I wasn't stressed at all.
Okay.
Well, I say that. That's not true. I was stressed, but I was like, this is our time. Let's make it count. Let's have some fun.
You know, we played
a
so
stage
many
like
shows.
This is the venue where the band is made to play on. Like, I mean, like that's the size of venue, the sound system, everything, the lights, everything was, and the show went so well too. And I could see backstage, Bring Me the Horizon was watching our set, and it was like, oh, cool. And after that, like we talked with the band and all the other bands that were playing too, and
you get connection.
Ghost Inside. Like, and I remember that's the first time I sang with the Ghost Inside, the song
I'll see you
when the sun set, Fate of Forgiveness.
Such a good song.
And so I sang that song with Ghost Inside, and I mean, we became instantly we became friends. And after that, with those friends, you make other friends, and you advance in the music industry. And so Dave really is the pinpoint of the band going and getting better,
putting you guys like in the right place at the right time.
On the map,
your moment, definitely. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So cool. Thank you a lot, Dave.
And speaking of the Ghost Inside, most people don't know, but Vigil, the singer, sings on Baby One More Notch, like the punks beat.
Okay.
You know, that's him.
I didn't know that.
But it's like he's not in the music video, and he, like Baron, when he uploaded the songs on Spotify, I think he just forgot to put his name on it, but like he actually sings in the song. Yeah,
that's actually really cool. I did not know that.
Yeah, most people
on
don't
9
know.
Providence Street, we have the Spine Shank singer. Johnny Santos. I used to be a big new metal fan when I was young, like maybe 9 years old. I still am, by the way. I'm not ashamed of it at all.
Same.
I love new metal. And we have Ricky and Nightmare on Providence on the track Nightmare on Providence Street. We have the first As Blood Runs Black singer on All Alone, and we have Jonathan Vigil on Baby One More Notch.
Yeah.
We had a lot of featuring
four
on
feats
that.
just don't appear anywhere. But
they're not because I don't think I've ever seen any of those names pop up on like on the YouTube results or on Spotify or anywhere. Like, and that was an era also where like that would always be written like in parentheses, like feat this guy, you know, of this band. Like that was like a thing for a while, you know.
Yeah,
it was,
but not for us.
I don't know. maybe someone fucked it up when he encrypted the name or something. I don't know.
Curse, man. Yeah. That's, you know.
I mean, look. We have to talk about it because we're already kind of touching on it. Maybe One More Notch. Yeah. The video itself. And speaking of the curse, you know, the video. I mean, it's uploaded another time, but the original upload doesn't exist anymore, right? Rest in peace, the Media Scare YouTube channel. But talk us through Baby One More Notch. Like, I guess, did you guys know you guys had something there? How much did that change things for the band? Because that song fucking exploded. Yep. I know for here in Quebec, obviously, like the Tabarnak was like a big thing, but that transcended, you know, Quebec. That became like a thing. So I'm curious from your guys' perspective how that came about, and if you guys thought anything of it when you guys were making the song.
Actually, when we made the song, the Tabernacle was not there at all. I remember telling Max, I'm like, we need to say something before that double bass part. And
we just didn't know what to say, and we didn't want any like fuck or, you know, like something that was already
you already had it like 15 seconds earlier. You had a fuck, right? So
but like and
I remember I texted a few people. I remember I texted my sister back in the days, and I was like, what do you think if we say tabarnak right before a breakdown? It's like, terrible idea, worst idea. I'm like, imagine the merchandise, it would sell well. And I texted Dave. He's like, not sure, I don't think that's gonna work. I texted a few other people. Everybody told me no. And I said to Max, let's try it.
Yeah.
And we did it, and
I thought it was the fucking sickest idea.
I think it was fucking awesome, but you know, and turned out that we were right. But yeah.
Honestly, I remember thinking like that, you know, it's brilliant. I'm like, I was even surprised that nobody did it. You know what I mean? Like my reaction was like,
it seems like such an obvious thing, right?
I was like, that's the thing to do. You play Montreal, people are going to be freaking crazy about it, you know, and it's such like a thing that everybody knows. Dude, here.
How many people say fuck before a breakdown? You know, like it was just kind of like a translation of that ultimately, right? But I think it was specifically, I don't know. There's something too about it not actually going straight into a breakdown. Like, I mean, it's a breakdown beat in the back, but like the heavy focus on the delayed guitars going on top of it, and then it kind of goes into the breakdown, and that's something we've like rarely seen all together. Like, I think I even remember hearing it for the first time and almost being pissed off that it wasn't a breakdown, like right away, right? Like just something super heavy afterwards. And then you listen to it a second time, you're like, wait, no, this is fucking sick. But like, I don't know.
But it's kind of showcasing, it's kind of showcasing the double kicks, you know, and it's like the first time you hear like kicks like that in Blind Witness too. So it's like, hey, check out our drummer.
Yep.
You know,
at the very first time we weren't sure where we would put it, because I had the same reaction as you, Dom. I was like, I think we should say it before a fucking huge breakdown instead of just like double bass, and we couldn't put it anywhere else, and we decided just to put it there. And I feel like people wanted to listen to it again afterwards, and it made sense that it was there because people wants to listen to it again and again, and they're like, oh, okay, now I get it. You know, I don't know. I think it was where it needed to be.
And also, it seemed like I remember my impression, and still to this day, it feels like you guys had a blast filming the video. Can you walk us through a little bit, like how fun it was, or if it was like just straight up exhausting or whatever? I'm just curious. It feels like you had a blast doing it.
We were really fortunate actually
Shout out
because the
Matt
guy,
Charlin,
ouais,
Yeah, of course.
because this guy is amazing. He's a filmmaker now, and his career is exploding right now. But he was a fan at the very beginning. He was a fan of the band, and he did a video for a band called Punch Out, and we were friends with the band. And I got his contact through the guy from Punch Out and I approached him about doing the video, and he was sold on it, super into it, and he had all the ideas.
Yeah,
He came up with all the ideas, everything, and it was a really hard shoot.
Yeah.
I think we played the song 500 times.
It was over 2 days, and it was nonstop. But it was pretty, and like the house party and all that is crazy.
The roof was like like that.
Yeah, we could have all died.
We could have all died.
But it was so fun, and for us, it was the first real music video that we the professional music video that we ever that we had ever done, and so it was so fun, and it was a cool era for us. I think we kind of felt like the band was finally going somewhere, and so it was very, very exciting to be making that music video, and the synergy within the band was really good at that time. So it was, I don't know, it was good times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. And I remember thinking for the video that it was brilliant to mix the two, I mean, like the two coolest kind of videos you can make. You had the old kind of barn thing, but at the same time, you had the Suicide Season kind of big party kind of, and you had both in one. I remember thinking like, okay, they really, they went all in on this. So to me, everything makes sense. You had the call out, super iconic, like memorable, the video, like everything. It was all in one, one moment. So I remember it blowing up. Like people were sharing it all the time, and people were like, "Did you hear this band?" Sometimes people wouldn't even know what you guys were as a band. It would be like, "Hey, there's a band from here. They said Tabarnak." Well, like people would talk about it. I'm like, yeah, do you know them? No, I don't know them. Like, so it tells you how much of an impact you had.
I filmed a video with Matt Charlin clearly because of that video.
Oh, really?
And
nice.
Yeah. So, and I mean, you guys were fortunate too, as was I. He didn't do that many music videos. Like he really had to be into it for it to work. And I can vouch for the effort that dude puts into videos and stuff. Us too, it was over 2 days. And dude, when I say that the second day we showed, they text us and they say, yo, you guys can arrive like an hour and a half later than what we had planned. We're just like doing something to the set or whatever. And then we show up, they had torn down an entire wall in the room that we were supposed to shoot in to make more space. Like they destroyed, like removed the wall in the building. And like, they didn't ask us to help, And so I don't know, kudos to that dude, man. He's it's crazy to see what he's doing now too with his short films and with all the work he's doing. That guy's insane, man.
So for you, like it's like everything felt right, like you found your sound after that, show would bring me the video. It probably felt like, okay, this is it. Like we're finally on the right track, and everything after that, I feel like is history. You were featured on cool tours. As I said earlier, I'm pretty sure Dom is gonna talk about it pretty soon. But you did sick tours, even
we have one tour in particular that we have to talk about: the Over the Limit tour.
Yeah.
Like, what a lineup. Like,
Crazy.
As Blood Runs Blacks, Oceano, Arsonist, Get All the Girls, Tony Danza, Thick as Blood, Burning the Masses, Circle of Contempt, You Guys, Son of Aurelius, This or the Apocalypse. What the fuck? Like, that's still today kind of an unheard of lineup. Like, when people ask me, what's the craziest tour lineup you've ever seen? Like that I didn't see the show, but like that I can think of, like a flyer. That's the flyer I bring up 10 times out of 10. How was that tour for you guys? Because that must have been kind of hectic at the same time. That's like a shit ton of bands on touring together.
It was fun, but it was exhausting.
really hard.
I'm sure. It was like, what time was load-in for those shows?
Always before noon.
Yeah, 10 a.m., something like
10
that.
a.m. and we would have every day 12-hour drives in between the shows.
Oh yeah, it was crazy.
So it was the tour where I use Walmart a lot to take showers because I would go in the handicap restroom. There's always a drain in the middle, and I would wash in the sink all the time because we would eat McDonald's every day pretty much. So there's always McDonald's right next to a Walmart in the States, and we would sleep sometimes 4 hours in Walmart parking lot and wake up, and I would just go brush my teeth, wash myself a little bit, and then grab a burger and then go back in the van and drive.
And we didn't have a driver for that tour.
Oh my god!
So
did most bands have drivers, or were a lot of bands in that similar scenario?
I think that most bands had drivers. Yes. At least they had like a merch guy who could drive or something like that, you know. But us, we didn't. Like, we always brought friends, usually on tour. Like, one of our friend would do one tour and some other friend would do another tour. But for that one, we couldn't get anyone. And
the tour, you needed someone,
dude. It would have been a lot easier on us because it was really hard. Like, I did most of the driving.
Yes, you did, because that's the first tour where I started to have a big problem with alcohol in me. So it was I was really, really, really. That was the start of a long way till a long journey till I found recovery. But it was really hard for Max. I'm sure, because I couldn't drive at night because I was always drunk, and you would have always to drive during the night, and then I would wake up at 6 a.m. maybe sometimes later on, and then I would take the wheel. But
we had a mattress in the van
because Eric was too young to drive. Yeah. John Campbell was he could drive, but me and Max were pretty much like the only one who could drive the van.
Yeah, Miguel didn't have his license. Yeah. Eric didn't have his license. It was either me or John, the other guitar player. But I don't know. I like driving though. Yeah. Like I didn't really mind doing it. It's just that after like for 30 days, you kind of, you notice that
it was really, really hard. And then I remember when we were on the last day, I received an email, and Dave could have gotten us on a huge tour. I think it was Of Mice and Men.
Ooh.
And it was like a cross-Canadian tour, but with only 8 shows with the bands and tour bus.
Was it The Devil Wears Prada? Or no, that wasn't that one?
I think it was like maybe The Devil Wears Prada, Of Mice and Men, and another big band.
Huge at that time, so
yeah. It was really, really big, and I remember I was putting gas in the van, and I told Max, and he's like, "Nope,
I'm not going back on tour, like for sure, like not right now, because it was like no day off, and then we come, and before the Over the Limit, I'm pretty sure we had recording. A tour, like we just didn't, start with the Over the Limit, like we were off another tour, and then
2009, 2010, you guys were more on the road.
It was like never.
Oh yeah. Well,
never ending tour.
9-10 months out of the year of
it's just fucking touring. Exhausting. With like not like we were getting bigger, so that meant that we were doing bigger tours, but that meant that we were opening bigger tours. That meant that we were like making less money.
Right. You're getting bigger, you get more opportunities, get paid less.
Exactly.
Make it make sense.
And less rest. And and so it's like you really want to get to that point, but when you get to that point, it's so hard. It makes things. The mid
tier is like
that's why
it makes or make or break.
That's why I think that like bands now they tour smart. Like get the shot. Like they don't fucking do 10 months a year. They do a few tours, but they do good tours, and they have like jobs in between, and they have a life. For us, it was just. For us, like at the end, at least for me, it was like, if this is going to be my life, I'm done. Like it's, I can't like,
because on top of that, you're probably getting back home broke, right?
Exactly. I was living with my girlfriend, and and
you're
I
not
couldn't
seeing 10
pay
months out of the
anything.
year.
Yeah, I couldn't pay anything. And I was always like at her mom's or at her dad's or with her or whatever when I'm off tour, and and when I could find a job when we were home long enough, I could find a job in between. But like at the end, when you're only 2 weeks home and then off for another month and a half, and like off on tour, I mean, and then it made things so hard for us, at least for me. And I was like, man, I'm not sure if I'm made for that,
It's one of the things that I'm going to talk for myself. I know Jerry talking about that obviously, but like I love talking about these things because when you're a fan, you never went into that. I personally never toured, right? But when I started my channel, it was a big reality check because when I was 15, 16, in my mind, everybody had a big tour bus, sleeping perfectly well. Like that was my vision. I'm like, oh my God, these guys are freaking rich. Like that was my, like every band in this scene. Like I was seeing like Suffocate. I'm like, oh, these guys are living the dream and stuff. I started my channel and I look at the beginning of every band and I'm like, oh my God, they were, sleeping in a van at all time. They were driving 12 hours. Then you have to perform. Like it's not an easy lifestyle at all. As you said, I think now people are maybe more aware. They plan differently. But back then, to your defense, it was what people were doing. It was the way to
That's how you promoted your band. It was the best way of promoting.
We tour, you're hoping for the big label, and that's that. So there was it. I'm sure it felt like it was the option, the thing to do.
It was the only option, and back in the days, it was all that thing, all that like process and everything was like, it was the managers and the booking agents that were putting the bands like everybody wants to get famous, John. So either you do that or you go back home and you do something else, because they were setting the terms of how a band is supposed to suffer before they would get to a point where they can be comfortable touring. And we were just like, okay, let's go. We're young Canadians and we have an opportunity to get big in the US. Of course, we're going to take it. But like I said, like we said, when we got to that tour, we were already burnt out like from before, and it was really hard to keep the momentum and keep everything going. And so we got exhausted faster.
And just because like we always, I remember we would talk about it, like we always thought that, the bigger you get, the easier it gets, but it's like the opposite.
Yeah. And that's when the real work starts.
But the real work had already started like, a few years before, because we were touring nonstop, well, not nonstop, but a lot, like at least 6 to 7 months a year, like 4 or 5 years prior to that. And so when you get to, and you're always sleeping in the van because you want to save money, and it's hard, and then you're dreaming of like, when we get on these big tours, it's going to be awesome, and then it just sucks more.
And you get there and it sucks more. You're like, when is it going to end? I don't know.
The
shows are nice, but everything
like
else.
We're talking about this lineup of bands like on the Over the Limit. Like I'm sure it's like, oh, it's cool. It's gonna be like a homie fest, like a bunch of bands we've already toured with before. There's a bunch of sick ass fucking bands on this thing. But if you can't get through the fucking day without wanting to shoot yourself in the head, like it's not worth anything,
it's
right?
Just,
like
it's just exhausting. Yeah. But there were some, like I'm not shitting on touring. Like this one was hard in particular, but there was other tours that were just awesome. Like with Dead and Divine and Tony Danza. Was it Tony Danza and Dead and Divine, or is it?
It was Dead and Divine, The Bled.
Oh yeah, Dead and Divine, The Bled, and Let Live.
Let Live.
Yeah,
that was so fun.
That was awesome.
Yeah, and what's the other one with Tony that we did in Canada?
We did we were aligning with Tony Danza and Fall in Archaea.
Yeah, Fall in Archaea. Yeah.
Yeah, such a good band too.
Yeah, I mean that's basically Spirit Box now, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Or like that Attila tour. That was fun.
Chelsea Grin, Attila.
Like
you guys were headlining
the party
too,
tour.
Right?
Yeah. So,
I mean, Chelsea Grid and Attila are known specifically to, you know, especially during those days. Like I made video about these guys. I was like, oh my God. Like I would see even sometimes in an interview, people walking by like completely drunk and stuff. Like I feel like it was, but it must have been, you know, still an awesome tour, right? Like the shows and people showing up. I mean, we're talking about only huge names in their peaks, right?
And that was like smaller markets, so like
Yeah.
not as like long drives, you know? So like 4 or 5 hour drives between shows instead of like 10 to 12. That makes it a lot more fun.
Three bands on a tour also helps.
Yeah,
As
exactly.
opposed to 12. Yeah. Load-in is probably a little bit later.
Yeah, exactly.
that's what that was a Too Cool for School tour, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I think so.
Yeah. That was big. That was fun to
that was fun.
to realize where we were at now. Like, I mean, we just toured with Attila in the US, I believe. Yeah. And then by talking to them, we're like, hey, we're gonna do an headlining run in Canada. You guys want to come? And Chelsea Grin was like, yeah. Attila said yes, and we planned it, and it was great. It was like big venues in Canada. I think.
To think that we would headline this like now, you know, like that's, you know, I look at the flyer, I'm like,
that's
what?
crazy.
That's crazy. But in 2010 or 11,
and when we came as Roman open for a tour with us and Textbook Tragedy, that was crazy.
Who?
We came as Roman.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah, true.
Yeah, the Frenchies versus the Romans, or
but you know,
that was.
It's just
and after that, the band exploded. We came as Roman was like everywhere. Everybody was talking about that band.
Yeah.
No, it's crazy.
Yeah.
We had a pretty good run. We had fun. We were touring a lot. It was hard, but
a little too much, maybe.
Yes, sweet.
A little too much fun and a little too much touring.
How was the Suffocate tour you guys did in Europe?
Europe, it was fun. I mean, it was something. It was weird. We were two bands in the same. Like, it was not a tour bus. It was like a sprinter with a bunk bed at the back. Yeah. So we were
with King Conquer, or with
we were with King Conquer in the same van, and we were getting along great with King Conquer, but with Suffocate we had our differences. Like Eric and the drummer from Suffocate do not get along at all.
To be clear, the drummer from Suffocate doesn't get along with a lot of people.
Yeah.
I'll just put it out there. Yeah, so you don't have to say it.
No, I mean, but.
Yeah,
I mean, it's sometimes it happens in tours, but
strong personalities and whatnot, and
But it was a fun tour. It was different to see. It was fun to see Europe for one, and the condition of touring in Europe are way better. Way better. Like, I mean, we had a place to sleep every night, a place to shower every day. We had good meal every night. And it was a lot different, but it was also kind of hard because the time change too. Like, I mean, it takes you a while to. But for me, it takes me a while to get used to the time where we are now versus at home. It's completely different. It's 6 hours different, so it was hard on my body. But I mean, it was a really fun tour to do.
And then you guys kind of like from there, you know, we don't need to get into specifics, but like obviously you guys kind of said you were great. Well, a lot of members left, but then you guys came back. The band eventually broke up, and then it came back. There's all this stuff that happened, but ultimately you guys kind of started doing a lot more of, I guess, some of the bigger festivals around Montreal. Like, it kind of became like the Rock Fest, the Heavy MTL, stuff like that. Like, how was that for you guys over the years? Maybe like touring less and playing less shows, but still, you know, at that point, I guess, kind of doing the biggest shows that the band was doing in their career at that point, right?
Yeah, because when we stopped the band was probably at its biggest, and we broke up. Everybody was like, "Whoa," and we let that go. We we tried a little bit. Like, I mean, the offers were there. So like the European tour came like, I think 3 months after we broke up or something like that.
Yeah, I wasn't on that tour.
Yeah, Max was not there. And maybe a year after we broke up, I'm time frame, I'm not really good with that. But so we decided to push a little bit like for that tour. And then afterwards we were like, I think festival and less touring is pretty much the way to go, because we have time for regular life and our jobs, and we can, when we want and when the timing is right and when the offers came in, we can decide if we want to do like the festival or not. And that's what pretty much we were aiming for.
Best of both world kind of scenario. Okay.
And even when we, wanted to, bring the band back together in 2019, it wasn't for,
it wouldn't have been full-time touring.
No. It's just, let's do a few shows here and there, maybe have fun.
You guys are some like four date runs type things here and there.
Yeah, kind of. And maybe if, one, maybe European tour or something like that for 2 weeks, or but like just like I do sometimes with the Get the Shot, I just go for a few weeks but not more. And because you get to say yes and you get to say no exactly
with those scenarios, right? There's a difference when, like, because you were talking about managers being like, well, it's you guys or the next guys, so like take it or leave it type thing. So it's like you want to say yes to everything, but at that point it's a different scenario,
because you don't depend on that. And it's like it's cool.
Yeah,
that feeling is very nice to know that you could go on tour, but you don't have to. And like before, it's quite the opposite. It was
totally the opposite.
You could go back home, but you're not gonna.
Yeah. No one's gonna pull us out of the road. That's for sure, except us. Back in the days, we were like, "Fuck, another tour." Okay, let's do it. I'd rather tour than sit at home. Now it's completely the opposite.
Yeah, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
and also, like, for festival in particular, like, if they offer you a slot on the festival, it's because people wants to see you, and the festival wants to book you because they know it's gonna be profitable for them, and profitable for you, and it's like a win-win situation that us, I mean, like, we really like to be in that position, because now we can choose whenever we want to go out or no, or when the timing is right between us or the other members, or like, I mean, we get to choose. So that's the best scenario possible for us. And it seems like the band doesn't want to die. That's so weird.
Yeah, you told me that.
It's like the band that never dies.
The band that doesn't want to die.
Yeah.
Look, I was scrolling through your guys' Instagram, the Blind Witness page, and I was looking on the last post, which was made like 3 years ago, and there was still comments from like last week being like, "When's the new music?" There's something there,
As hard as we tried, like, this band doesn't want to die. So
I mean, I feel, especially now, I mean, you guys are aware with Lorna Shore, with like the huge comeback that happened, kind of like there's new wave of deathcore. I feel like a lot of people are wondering who's gonna come back. Like, we know that All Shall Perish is coming, but like all those bands are making a comeback. So especially Blind Witness, like, so a lot of people already wanted you to come back. So like with this new, I'm sure it's worse now, because people are like, they might
a revival.
With the revival, are they gonna, like, I'm sure the question is even more, at least on my channel, honestly, I keep telling them, like, every time I drop a video, hey man, I don't know if you know these guys, but they're from where you're from. Like, I'm like, yeah, I know, dude. And every week they're like, you should do a video. So it's like, definitely you're still in the conversation. How does it feel, by the way, like for you guys to be like, wow, people still care even if we're not that active? How does it feel for you?
It's
It's
crazy.
defying everything that I thought the music industry was. So, I mean, I would never think that a band that hasn't toured in more than
10 years,
10
12,
years,
12, 13.
like people would still talk about that band. I mean, like it's done. Like no one talks about like Winter Solstice or It Dies Today or like I mean like.
It Dies Today is making a
It Dies
comeback.
Today,
Yeah.
And by the way, I love those bands. I mean, like great records and everything.
But it's just like the smaller bands.
Smaller bands.
Yeah.
Because we were not at that level, in my opinion. Like not at all. Like we were
It Dies
smaller
Today,
than that.
what a band. Yeah.
But you know, like I mean, from our era, all the bands that we toured with are done,
Yeah.
and
most
most of them, and I don't see it on my Facebook that people are like, hey, when is that band gonna come back or whatever? And so I'm like, it's just mind blowing, to be honest. Like I mean,
Well, it's always like, it's very flattering. It's super nice to see, but it's always like, they're always like, hey, when are you going to put out new music or whatever? And, you know, and I feel like maybe like these guys, they like Nightmare on Providence Street. You know, it's like, I'm sure that, you know, it's like they
At
want.
least it's not the early demo stuff they like. I'll just
Oh
say,
God,
you know.
how could one like that? No,
No, but I mean, some bands are stuck with that, right?
Oh,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
like
true.
we like your first record, you know. It's like, oh fuck. You
really
know?
happy it's not the case because I don't think there's no one missing Silence Is All Words.
but there would be like a lot of pressure
Terrible album.
to put out new music. Like Force Fed was fun to do, but it was stressing. You know, it was you know, because like you want to be at least as good as, you know, Nightmare, but like it will never be that record. And like this, I think
It's just
this
different, right?
Yeah. But people want to, you know, they want another Tabarnak, or I don't know. It's you know, so
Yeah, when's the Sacre Bleu? You know,
Yes, or
Asti de Calice.
Yeah.
We
There
thought
we go.
about it.
yeah, we should do them all. Yeah.
Asti de Calice.
But, yeah.
That would work.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's just to answer your question, it's just really nice.
Yep.
You know, whenever I read a comment, or you know, I saw on Facebook this week like the deathcore page or whatever, they're like, oh, we miss Blind Witness, and there's like
Yep.
1,000 likes, and I'm like, wow, you know, it's you know, it's flattering. It's nice.
Yeah, because sometimes when you're in it, right, like you're touring, doing your thing, like you don't necessarily know what people are thinking, or like it's hard to kind of evaluate
Take a step
yourself.
back.
Yeah, like do we have a big impact or not? Like, you do it, and it's but then when you see the reaction, or even after years, people are carrying it, means that what you did, you know, as much as it was hard, it had a big meaning. You know, it's kind of the proof of like, okay, we did have a big major impact. And so I love asking that for that reason. But to your point, there's always the pressure of like when you have a big hit or a big, you know, kind of a big prime, it's like when you're writing music, you're like, how, like you're not the same mindset, you're almost not the same person at all even. So it's like, how
Yeah.
you know, you want it to be genuine. You don't want to like just copy your old self. So it's this whole thing. So I get it.
Yeah. It's like you can't put out like a new Blind Witness song just like that. You know, it would have like, I would have to, you know, think about it a lot and rework the song 1,000 times. And, you know, and back in the days, I would just, you know, I would just sit in the van with Eric and write a song in like an hour, and that would be on the album, because you like no pressure, you know.
Yeah. That's kind of like the lightning in a bottle. That's kind of how that sort of stuff kind of works sometimes. You know, it just works itself out.
Yeah.
I want to be mindful of you guys' time, so I'd have one last question, quick one, if you guys don't mind.
Yes.
On our Instagram earlier, we had Nick Arthur come in. and and tag Joe saying that you almost got arrested for Nick Arthur of Molotov Solution. Can you can you share any details of that story, or is that off limits?
No. I mean, like, it was a crazy show in Las Vegas, if my memory is good.
Yeah.
And someone in the audience stabbed another member of the audience, and Nick went right in in between of the two guys, and he tried to separate them. And Nick actually punched the guy with the knife, and he disarmed the guy actually. But outside, it went all the way outside, and the police was already outside because someone had called 911. And then I just arrived and I rushed towards Nick, and I'm like, what the fuck's going on? And he's like, and he's covered in blood. There's a lot of blood. I mean, not covered, but there's a lot of blood on him because, like, I don't know, like,
he was
how
holding
we
two
got
guys,
it. He
one
was
guy got
holding
stabbed,
two guys,
yeah.
and one guy got stabbed. There you go. And then the police come, and I just asked the police what's going on, and I don't have 1 second or nothing. No, sir, stay out of it. They just handcuffed me. Like really fast, and handcuffed me. And they put me on the hood of the car, and I was just like screaming at the police, and it was crazy. It was fucking crazy.
It was like, hey, it's the guy with the tattoos. He's the one who must have stabbed the guy. You know, like.
Yeah. I think I have a picture somewhere of me yelling with handcuff on top of the car, of the police car. I couldn't find it because when I saw the comment earlier, I was like, hey, fuck, I remember that. And yeah, so that's pretty much what happened. And no one got arrested in the end, but police obviously arrested the guy who stabbed the other one, probably. Okay. I'm guessing, but yeah, because at that time in Las Vegas, the hardcore metal shows were really rough. So police would always be like a minute and a half away from where a show would be, because that's an incident that was like recurrent.
It wasn't a rare thing over there.
It wasn't a rare thing at all.
That's wild,
that's what happened. Yeah, it was
fucking crazy, dude.
Especially Nick, you know, you're in between, like, you disarm someone with an, like, you can literally die like in 5 seconds. You know,
I mean, Nick's pretty buff now because he works the fuck out. But he was a skinny dude back then, right? Am I mistaken?
He's as tall as me, so
I remember him. He's pretty big.
Yeah, he was pretty intimidating.
I think.
Yeah.
Okay. I remember him
pretty big. It's just because I see him now and he's like fucking lifting like 300 or whatever, and I'm like, okay,
maybe not
this
that
guy's
big,
buff now, but yeah.
Okay.
Wow, that's wild, dude.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much for taking the time and allowing us to kind of, you know, go back in time and you know, explore the history, you know, that Blind Witness has, because, you know, we I didn't touch on this earlier, but, you know, for Yan and I guess both of us, you know, being here in Quebec, you know, obviously Blind Witness always been a big part of the culture, the metalcore, deathcore culture here. So it was really cool to be able to, as fellow Quebecers, have this talk with you guys and dig deep.
Well, thank you so much, guys, for the invitation. It was really fun.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome,
absolutely.
dude.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I think this week I think I told them like 5 times, dude. I'm like really stoked on this one. Like it was honestly was a big deal because it's like it's those stories. Like we have to talk to you guys because this information is nowhere to be found. So all these questions that we had and that people have, like that's kind of the only way. So thank you for sharing pretty much everything. That's super sick.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have anything. I know no music, but I don't know if you guys have anything to plug. And you know, Max, you do the music production and all that. So if there's anything you guys want to kind of share to the world before we sign off, I'd love for you guys to kind of have the opportunity to do so.
Well, I don't know. Like, I record music. So my website is houseofgainstudio.com. And if not, check out Get the Shot. Check out Don't Try.
Oh my god, I saw these guys live. It's insane. This vocalist, dude, like I felt like I was pretty far, and I'm like, I think I'm gonna get hurt here. Like they're crazy. Sorry, like I just realized I saw them with Despised Icon. They're crazy.
Get the shot.
Don't try.
Don't try.
Like
yeah.
the shot,
Oh yeah.
they're amazing. There was in Granby, I think, like last summer
yeah,
or something.
yeah.
And Despite
Such a good
was
band,
like the only kind of deathcore band there.
okay.
It was pretty funny. But first time I didn't know Don't Try at all, and people were the crowd was just like kind of calm. And when they didn't give a choice to anybody, it was like you're gonna get crazy now. Like they're wild.
Yeah, Max, the singer, is, he's really, really good. And he goes crazy live. Like, Don't Try is a band that you want to see live. Just like Get the Shot, but like it's a different style. It's more like punk, kind of like more of the like the UK kind of style,
Yeah.
But they're doing it really well. And they put on such a good show.
Also, I want to add, actually, I just thought of it. Festival au Lac. It's in Granby, and it's a really nice festival that we have in our hometown. And the guys are putting a lot of effort, and like the bills and all the bands that they pull from the US, like big bands, and it's in Granby, a really, really small town, and the organization is really, really well thought. So I just want to say shout out everyone, shout out the Festival au Lac, and go see it. And if you have a chance, it's gonna come back next year, early June. So check it out.
Definitely.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks again for taking the time, and we'll keep in touch. All right, boys.
Yes, of course. Take care, guys.
Good night, guys.
All right. Take care,
guys.